Welcome to our next episode. We are looking at self-defense today and how women can get started in martial arts. So, we are exploring how self-defense is actually a form of boundary setting and how it can be amazing and therapeutic modality for women. It has been life-changing for me. So, if you've ever been curious about personal protection to keep yourself safe or your loved ones safe, this is going to be relevant for you. If you want to feel more safe in your body as a woman, that's why I started. Amazing for that. If you want to build more skills to keep your nervous system regulated under stress, especially when it comes to conflict, this episode will be great for you. And I am convinced that more women would actually love learning self-defense. They'd be more interested in it if they knew that they could do it in a way that wasn't going to be too risky for them. It wasn't going to be depleting. It wasn't going to be super aggressive. And there are ways that we can do self-defense well as women. So we probably all have some sort of idea of what a self-defense class might be. And usually it's, oh, that's going to be intimidating. That's going to be too much. Maybe you've tried it before and it wasn't a good experience. I'll share about my personal experience here in a minute. But there are ways that we can do this well. Okay, that's what we're going to talk about in this episode. We can do this in a way that we don't get injured, we don't get burned out, or at least we can minimize the risks of those things. As my fiance would say, we can engage in personal protection in our own feminine way. We can work with our own needs. We can stand up for what we need in class. We just have to learn how to do so. My teacher would also say, make it your own. Okay? Make self-defense your own. And always remember, you are worth protecting and you are worth investing in. That's what self-defense is. It's personal responsibility, it's personal protection. So, welcome to the Feminine Strength Podcast here, where we share innovative strategies for women to sustainably build a strong and fit, healthy body while supporting our hormonal health and our nervous system resilience, which is more the topic of this episode. I'm your host, Jess Mather. I'm a strength and rehab professional with over 14 years of experience. I've helped hundreds upon hundreds of patients and clients build a stronger, healthier, body. So today we're going a little bit on a side note here to talk about martial arts. To be clear, I do not teach martial arts. Again, I'm a strength and rehab professional. I don't teach martial arts, but I've done martial arts for some time now. So a little personal story, how I started in martial arts and how it did not go well initially. So I started in 2018 at a Krav Maga school from the recommendation of my partner at the time, now fiance. I didn't feel safe in my body as a woman, and he suggested Krav because that's what he taught when he lived in Memphis. So I made it okay for the first few months. I didn't particularly like it, but I said I'll stick with it. And then I panicked. So it was at the end of class. The instructors were two men. They were fine. They were slowly demonstrating a position and a few moves that we were going to visit next week. And in that moment, I just blanked out. There was a dissociation, there was panic, and the teacher had looked at me and it was a look of slight concern, slight confusion of, what do I do? And my house was just around the corner. It was at the end of class. So I just kind of quietly made it out. I didn't say anything to anybody. I just drove home. I went to see my man and I immediately just burst into tears and hyperventilating whole 9 yards. I was like, what is going on? It was just too intense for my nervous system. It was too much, too fast, too soon. I didn't want to completely give up, so I tried another school a few weeks later. We call them school martial arts schools. And I emailed the guy and I had told him my reservations. I told him that I was nervous and generally what had happened. So he asked me to meet him at his gym. And I said, okay, sure, I'll meet you at your gym. And he was fine. But it ended up with me against the wall with his hands around my neck. And he's teaching me how to get out of this grip. And I don't remember exactly how we ended up there. I had obviously consented to being in that position, but what I realized was I wasn't at the point yet to share really specifically my needs or what was too much in that moment, or even knowing what was too much for me in that moment. That was a learning experience for me of, oh, I'm not ready for this right now. So I kept actually trying to push myself to go again. I should do this. This would make me feel more resilient and less afraid as a woman, and I would feel more capable. My body was just a no. It was just a no. So fast forward to 2019, a year or so later, a friend invites me to train this Russian martial art and kickboxing. And honestly, I didn't get it at the time, meaning I didn't get why it was really so important at the time. I just was like, you know what, at this point, I'm not going to be able to box a man off me. Why does this even really matter? I didn't understand how important it was to build confidence and security in myself as a woman. I just didn't quite get it. I just had such a negative experience. I'm like, whatever, just like screw this. And I didn't know what personal protection really could look like. I just had my experience with Krav, right? It felt super intense. It was super intense physically and emotionally. I'm like, nah, I just sort of passed it off. But towards the end of 2020, that same friend recommended a Kali instructor, a different type of martial arts. And I worked with him actually one on one. That was one of the best ways for me to start working into martial arts. I still recommend that strategy for women. Hire somebody you trust one on one first. So I hired him one on one. And then I hired a one-on-one instructor for jiu-jitsu because that was the most intimidating for me, grappling. To have some man on top of me holding me down with his hands around my neck, for example, or holding my arms down. I said that is going to be where I panic. So I wanted to go there so that I could not panic. So I hired a jiu-jitsu instructor privately, and then I moved into jiu-jitsu for about 6 months or so with just training with a female partner that I trusted, and then I moved on to training with men. It was a very slow progress, and it was perfect for me, and it worked, and it changed everything for me and for my ability to feel safe as a woman. It is not uncommon as women to feel inherently vulnerable because we are on a female body. That is not a universal experience for women. Some women, they're just like, what do you mean? Like, I feel great. I can walk around at night. But for a lot of other women, we feel inherently vulnerable. We know that we are not as strong and as powerful as a man. We don't know how to operate weapons. And we are often a target for attack. I have been followed multiple times. I have been terrified out of my mind from just going to the grocery store because of the men that have been in my sphere from strangers. And I'm sure you have some scary stories too, where you know of other women who have experienced that, or they've experienced abuse at the hands of men that they know, even worse at some level, right? Before I started self-defense, I actually had a lot of rage towards men. I actually was really angry, and a lot of women are still very angry now at men. They were the thing I needed protection from. And learning self-defense has actually tremendously helped my relationship with men and feel safer with them. Very, very important. It's been much relief. It's incredibly important, I think, to do self-defense, not because men are bad. I need to protect myself against men. Men are the enemy. But we go into this because our safety matters. You are worth the investment. You are worth protecting. Your well-being matters. You matter. Why wouldn't you want to learn how to fight for yourself and protect yourself or protect somebody else? Personal protection, again, is our personal responsibility. We can't control the actions of others, but we can control our actions, and that's an empowered state. Knowing that we can do something, that we're not just a victim and we're inherently vulnerable because we are women. That is an empowered state, okay? So in personal protection training, it is actually less about physical combat and contact and more about nervous system resilience. Just like how I froze in that Krav class where it was just too much, too fast, too soon, or when he had his hands around my neck and I was like, how did I even get myself in this situation? I feel very uncomfortable. What do I do? What do I say? It's about training your nervous system to be more adapted in those situations. So my default patterning was to freeze under immense overwhelm, blank out, shut down, not move, immobilize. That is not a great strategy when you need to fight and get the heck out of somewhere. It can be very dangerous. Or if you're somebody who does mobilize, that's your nervous system response, but you're doing so without the skills can also be really dangerous, right? So good personal protection training actually teaches you to be calm and regulated above anything else. It is like one of the greatest nervous system regulation exercises I've found. And I've done a lot and even taught nervous system regulation and somatic practices. Doing self-defense is an amazing way to regulate your nervous system under serious stress. So when we're calm, we can see creative options. What I mean by that is when we're calm in a stressful situation, when there's some sort of conflict, and we are the ones that are calm, we can see options to escape, to diffuse, to fight if need be. Unfortunately, if that the rare occasion that happens, My teacher would say, escaping with dignity is our first goal, escaping with dignity. My teacher would say not to fight. We often think self-defense is like, oh, I'm in a conflict, I'm going to fight. That's not the point. We want to actually escape with dignity. We don't want to fight. We want to actually know how to diffuse things and have situational awareness to not escalate to that point. So learning techniques can be really helpful, how to strike, how to get a chokehold. It can be kind of fun, like you're learning different exercises, so to speak. And in real life, it's really not that straightforward and predictable. It was something I felt was missing in Krav. It was very kind of staged. But in a real life situation, it's not going to look staged like that. It's going to look chaotic and messy. There are so many different variables that can happen in a conflict. So one of my favorite martial arts has actually been Russian Sistema. I've talked about it several times on social media. Russian Sistema, it's kind of an underground martial arts, not very popular like Jiu-Jitsu, say, but they have several principles. Their principles are breathing. You always want to keep breathing. Okay, when you're in a situation where you're scared, where there might be conflict, where you need to protect yourself, you need to keep breathing, stay calm. We want to be able to stay moving. Okay, you don't want to freeze. Okay, you want to be moving, be able to move. You want to have the ability to escape, right? Structure or posture is another principle. So we want to have a structure or posture that doesn't allow us to be um, essentially taken down very easily. So our structure and posture is very important. And relaxation. One of my teachers would say relaxation is the goal. We want to stay calm and relaxed. We don't want to hit an attack out of like rage and anger. Okay, we want to stay calm and focused. If we need to execute something, we execute it clearly and calmly to diffuse a situation or escape or protect somebody, right? It's not like this flailing around angriness, right? So what I like about Sistema is that it doesn't rely on strength or brute force. I always thought I'm petite, like I'm a petite short woman. Like how am I going to be up against a man who's like 6 foot and 250 pounds? But in good martial arts for women, it doesn't rely on strength or brute force. This is extremely important for women. We are not out here out muscling a man. I will never out muscle a most grown men, okay? And I'm strong, I lift weights, but I'm not going to out muscle a man. So weapons, they say, are the great equalizer. That's a whole nother conversation on weapon training, but Sistema also teaches weapons among other disciplines in martial arts. But so self-defense is a long game. Personal protection is a long game. Light weightlifting, it's a continual exploration to make sure that you're safe, not in a way that you're paranoid or you think that you're going to get captured or kidnapped or that somebody's going to hurt you, but just that you're prepared and you're aware, right? So I love that one professional said self-defense is the ultimate in boundary setting. It is boundary setting. Okay, self-defense is ultimately boundary setting. A quick little story here of where I had to set my boundaries, where only a few years later, before self-defense, it did not go this way. We live in the woods. We live close to town, but we live in the woods. So it's this weird in between where you can't see our house from the road and the neighbors can't see our house, so it's very secluded back here, but we're close enough to town where riffraff can come down on the road. So there was a man that came up. I was alone. It was dusk. I had two large dogs, two 80-pound dogs, and it was dusk, and this man was coming up on our property. And what I heard first initially, I was on the couch in the living room, and I heard bump, 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 bump up the stairs very quickly. I was like, I'm not expecting an Amazon package. And fortunately, we have a big screened-in porch, and I had locked that screen door. And we have two big French doors with windows. So the dogs were like right there, one on each side of the door, barking, barking. And it was a seemingly homeless man with a backpack, and he was trying to get in. And he was trying to open the door and kind of be like, hey, hey, oh, it's good. I'm just trying to open this door to get onto your property. And I'm like, go away. Like, no, leave, no. And he didn't. He didn't leave. He kept trying to get in until I to like the phone signal and said, I'm going to call the police. And then he left. He'd actually stolen a motorbike and left it on our property. So we actually ended up having to call the cops and get everybody here. But I felt like I was able to handle that conflict. It was nerve-wracking initially when I heard him coming up the steps really quick. I could feel my adrenaline come up, like, whoa, like that's not normal. And then I immediately got calm again. And I'm like, nope, this is not okay. You are on our property. You're not supposed to be here. When a similar situation happened several years ago, when a man tried to come onto the property and break into the house, we don't live in a sketchy area. It's just sometimes we get riffraff coming off this road. Um, I panicked and I was terrified and it was a whole thing. And I'm like, how am I going to be able to stay at the house by myself when my partner is gone? If somebody comes in, I'm just going to freeze. I'm not going to know what to do. I have the dogs, but maybe that's not enough. It was so night and day between those two incidences. It was very insightful for me to have that experience of that guy coming up and like, no, I can set this boundary. You're not supposed to be here. I don't have to be afraid of this. I can handle myself, right? I was calm. So, moving forward. So, the top fears women usually have starting martial arts is one, injury risk. I only got injured once when I was doing martial arts. Jiu-jitsu can be a little bit higher risk if you're going really hard and fast and heavy, but the only injury I got was when I wasn't staying calm. And actually, my training partner had told me, "You okay? Do you need to breathe?" He was watching out for me, and I wasn't. And then my elbow got tweaky, and then that lasted a few weeks, and it went away. So injury risk is actually quite low if you're training with the right partners. Women are afraid it'll make them more paranoid. That's what I was afraid of. I'm like, I already feel unsafe in my body as a woman. I don't want to be more paranoid. And it didn't. It made me less paranoid. It made me feel safer. Women are worried that it'll trigger past unhealthy thoughts about their sense of safety with men. I was worried it was going to make my relationship with men worse. I was worried it was going to make me feel like men are something that I need to protect against, but it didn't. I actually had beautiful male training partners. They were the one helping me be safe. Will it trigger past traumas? It might. That's why you have to go slow. Go slow. Will I look stupid or incompetent? Maybe, but if you're in a fun and playful environment, it's going to be okay. Will it make me feel guarded or aggressive? No, it's actually helped me feel way more relaxed in my body, way more relaxed. That was very unexpected for me, but it's made me feel so much more open because now I can be more discerning and I know, oh, I don't have to stay guarded all the time. I can be discerning. I can be open and relaxed and friendly. And then I trust myself to set boundaries and I trust to discern what is not okay or how to get out of a situation. Other women wonder, will I hate it? Will I hate doing it? Will it be really uncomfortable? And like, I love it personally. I find it very similar to dance. So it's been a real treat for me. I say it's dancing with knives. So what's helped me is starting with a private instructor who I trusted. It was a referral from me. Start with a private instructor if you feel intimidated going into a class. It can be really intimidating going into a class. When I do events, like I'm traveling somewhere next weekend actually for an event, and it's probably 30 people or so, you better believe I'm trying to get my friends, my training partners to go with me because it's a little bit nerve-wracking to go into a room and you're going to be doing this kind of work with people that you don't know. This is also a new teacher for me. So go with people that you know, go with a friend. In group settings, work with women. Work with women. I worked with my female training partner for over 6 months in jiu-jitsu before I started training with men. There are often self-defense classes just for women. I wouldn't recommend staying there forever. You want to have experiences working with men and people more powerful and bigger than you, because that's usually the circumstance in which you will have to protect yourself and it adapts your nervous system to that sort of stimuli. But it's really great to train with women at first to get comfortable with the positions and the contact and so on and so forth. Watch a class or two. I've gone to classes and just sat on the side and watched. Choose your partners. This is really important. I was at a big event. It was like 100 people. It was 90% men. I only knew a small handful of the guys there. And there was one man, as soon as the instruction ended, he immediately singled me out and was like, "You're coming with me." And I was like, okay. Maybe he has something he wants to teach me. I was open. I didn't see anything wrong with that initially, but he was not a good training partner. I didn't enjoy training with him. So what I've learned is to you choose your training partners. You go to who you want. So for the rest of that long weekend, I was choosing my training partners and I was choosing who I wanted to train with based on recommendations of other people in the class and based on people I've trained with before. Learn to say no. Learn to say, no, I don't want to train with you. I don't want to train with you. We do that in the dance community. I remember when I went to a dance event, it was Zouk dance, and a guy wanted to train with me, and I said no. And you know what he did? He high-fived his friend next to him, been like, thanks for letting me know. That was beautiful for me to experience that. The other thing is you get to go at your own pace with martial arts. You get to make it your own. So you don't have to do everything that they're doing in the class. You can sit out. Don't feel obligated to do everything that they're doing. You can say no, you can choose your partners, you can make it your own. In this class next weekend, it's 2 days, it's like 7 hours or so each day, and we're taking a 30-minute break. And I said, no, I'm going to take a lunch break because I know I need food. I know I need a rest. I need some time and space to decompress and integrate after that much contact and that much work. So the teacher said, you do what you need to do, right? So go to teachers that you trust, that you feel safe with, that are recommendations. Um, you don't have to be fearless to go into this. A lot of the time I'm uncomfortable, but you go in uncomfortable. You just go in uncomfortable. A lot of other people are going to be uncomfortable too. So in Sistema, the Russian martial art, I think that's a great one to start for women. It is a lot of varied contact. So you could be grabbed, you could be pulled, you could be punched, slapped. It's all like anything goes in Sistema because in a real world fight, anything goes. Anything can happen. So in Sistema, you really get comfortable with a lot of different positions and strikes, but we're moving slowly. This isn't like you're being tossed around like crazy. Sometimes they'll pick up the speed a little bit, but when we're training and practicing, it's going to be slower. Okay, that's how you don't get injured. Jiu-jitsu is where you're in very close proximity with people. It's grappling. Sometimes you wear a gi. I really enjoy jiu-jitsu. I enjoy the grappling of it. It's Sistema has grappling as well. Grappling, you can almost get into a flow state with it. It's like a puzzle that you're solving. You just have to go with the right training partners, move slow. That's when people get injured in jiu-jitsu. You know, an elbow will slip really quickly. Somebody will throw somebody and they don't land correctly. So you just need to know the safety of doing jiu-jitsu. But jiu-jitsu is very fun. There's actually quite a large population of women doing jiu-jitsu. So again, it's not always going to be comfortable. I'm not always comfortable even after doing it for several years, but I learned how to remain grounded and in my body during martial arts, and that was the most important. I stayed with what I needed and I was willing to ask for it. And I needed to get over, trying to keep up with the boys, so to speak, with the other people in the class. So with martial arts, again, it's not just about the fight. It's about learning how to be with your body and yourself. It's learning how to speak your no. It's learning how to be confident. So there's so much more I could say about martial arts. I've written many posts about my experiences and what the classes are like. If you have any other questions about martial arts, Sistema, you are welcome to reach out and ask me. I have recommendations of teachers that I really enjoy. Typically what they'll usually run classes in their local area. Like there's one in California, a couple in Toronto, North Carolina, South Florida. So they'll have regular classes and then they'll usually also do events like workshops that are really great too. So my first introduction to Sistema was I believe it was a 2-day workshop. It was like 4 to 5 hours per day. And that was super, super fun. I was so nervous going in, but it was very, very fun. So sometimes you'll see these workshops where they'll travel to different areas as well, where you can try it out, go with a friend, go with me. I don't know. If we're going to an event, I'll share some of them that I'm going to when I'm going to in Jacksonville soon. So again, feel free to send me a message, email me. I think self-defense for women is really, really important. I'm extremely grateful for one of my female friends who got me into it. I don't think I would have gotten into it without her not even necessarily persuasion, her commitment to knowing that this was something that was going to be important to me and leaving the door open for me to explore it without pressuring me and like forcing me to go into it. Go at your pace. So hopefully this was inspiring for you that martial arts can be so beneficial. It can be fun. You can make it your own. It can be, I call it parasympathetic cardio. So cardio or movement that actually relieves stress, that is not stressful on your body. Again, breathing is an important piece of martial arts, especially systema. So it can be another addition to your training and your nutrition. Hope this was informative. I would love to know your thoughts or if you need anything, and I will see you in the next episode. Thanks, guys.